Hey guys, Dwayne here. Wanted to talk a little bit about the time it takes to heal from this. I have made other videos about this in the past, and there's a lot of these topics that I think requires revisiting just because they're important messages and it's stuff that we're all going to deal with. And part of this is that it's a cycle. It's an iterative effect that you have to go through whenever you're trying to recover from this, because you have these times where things feel better and you feel like you're on an uptick, and then something happens, something triggers you, something reminds you of the past or your ex. You have to interact with that person, and it drives all those raw emotions and anger and fear and frustration right to the top. We all have setbacks. I mean, even I have my own setbacks. I mean, I'm at a position right now that I have some stability, but it's primarily because it's like a ceasefire or a truce, right? Nobody's really doing anything, but that could change at a moment's notice. I mean, I know that, I realize that, and what I try to do in these times is I try to spend my time mentally preparing myself for that, so that if and when the next salvo, so to speak, happens, I'm not completely blindsided by it and completely drawn back down into basically the pit of hell when dealing with it. The bad part about that, and there's a caveat that I want to talk about for a moment, and that is you can feel when you're in that constant state of preparedness that it's destructive instead of constructive. And I'm trying to think of a good example of that, but I mean, you can make preparations around your house for natural disasters and stuff like that. Okay, so I live in California, so it's earthquakes. So there are things that you can do to prepare yourself, right? You make sure you have spare water, you have spare food, which actually I don't think I have right now, but that's beside the point. But you have a rally point, so if something happens and you have to meet someplace different than your house, all those different things. Now you can do those preparatory things to make you feel better, right? So now you feel calmer, so that, okay, if that situation happens, I know exactly what to do and I'm not worried about it. Conversely, you can turn around and you can completely panic yourself, where you're thinking, oh my God, an earthquake's going to happen, my house is going to fall on me, my bookshelf's going to fall on me, no one's going to survive, it'll be terrible, I mean, we'll have no power, no water, I mean, you can catastrophize and basically take that preparation and make it into a negative because you're constantly dwelling on the bad parts. And that rolls into the situations that we're in. And it's a fine line, right? I mean, you can sit there and you can prepare and get ready to defend yourself from another attack from your ex, and it could cause you more anxiety, more stress, more frustration. Or you can do it in a way to where it's like, okay, I'm prepared. If it happens, I have money set aside for an attorney, or I have all my documentation set up and it's in a box. And I mean, I'm not to be naive about it. I mean, I know that if something happened, if I go home today and there's something in the mailbox that I'm not expecting, and it means that all-out war is basically started again, there are some things that would be a very emotionally triggering event. The good part about it is I've mentally prepared myself that I know what I would do. I know where I'm going to get money for the attorney. I know what information I need. I know what I've been doing to set a good foundation to have to deal with pretty much any unknown that's going to come up. Just wanted to mention that because like I said, there is a fine line with that where you can get yourself, and I say that speaking from experience, because I will tell you that I used to get so frustrated and scared and feeling like my life is in this permanent limbo that it was just really an emotionally draining experience. Now, I still, in a lot of ways, still feel like my life is in limbo, but I do have hope. I mean, I know I still have a few years left before I really get out of this or can start recovering from this financially and stuff like that. But I can see it, right? I see the goal at the end of the line, and I know what I'm heading towards, and I can see it. Maybe I might not be able to touch it, may not be able to taste it, but I believe that it's coming. You have to give yourself time to heal from this. This type of recovery is a very long and involved process. You know, I've talked about this in other videos, and maybe I'll link to them if I can pull them up to where you can watch some of the older ones. But all of us have gone through a really traumatic experience, and that doesn't mean that that you had to have my experience for it to be valid, to be complicated or difficult. You know, you don't have to have a 20+ year marriage with kids for this to be a traumatic experience. You could be coming out of a couple of year relationship. Maybe you never even got married. Maybe you just got sucked in, emotionally manipulated, and, you know, ran through the ringer on this, and you're dealing with it. And it's still hard. I mean, it's not, you know, everyone's pain and torture and trauma, you know, I mean, granted, there's different levels of it, and what you went through, maybe it was worse than mine. Maybe what I went through is worse than yours. But the feelings that we have towards it are all very similar and very valid. I mean, you basically were betrayed by somebody that you cared significantly about. You know, they lied to you, they manipulated you, they've continued to probably do that. And as a result of that, this takes time to recover from. And it takes time to heal from it. It takes time to learn. Even just learning from this stuff doesn't mean that instantaneously that you're going to be able to be, you know, cured or healed. You'll feel a lot better. I think that the reoccurring thing that everyone can relate to is when they first found out, when they first hit a channel like this or found this information somewhere and realized what they were dealing with, it was a life-changing event. And more than likely, if you're new, that's exactly what's happened to you. So if it's my channel where you had that discovery, you know, or someone else's channel, or you learned it from before, because I know for me, the day that this little nugget of information was put in my head, and I started doing research, and it was like the door was open, the decoder ring was handed to me, and I finally understood everything that I was dealing with, and what I was going through. That was a life-changing moment. That day changed everything. Now, that doesn't mean that everything is perfect from there on. You still have to heal. You still have to realize what you were dealing with. You still have to make peace with the fact that it was an illusion, that you weren't really, you know, what you thought you had wasn't real. It never was real. And that is a tough one, guys. I will tell you, and I've said this in other videos, I'll tell you that I had a bunch of times where I would get those feelings. They would hit me, and I would start reminiscing about the past, and I would feel sad about it. And at the same time, my brain is telling me, Dwayne, it wasn't real. You know, I mean, I'm going down that pit of hell, and, you know, my inner voice is going, but it wasn't real. She didn't really love you. She didn't really, you know, you didn't mean anything to her. Look at all the examples of everything that you've dealt with. You know it's true. Doesn't mean it didn't hurt. Still something I had to deal with. And as time goes on, you know, those programmed behaviors where you feel like a certain way, you start getting to the point where even when those things, I mean, like I will every once in a while still have something like that flare up, but literally it's like a flare up and it goes down. And that's ultimately what I think that you guys are going to be able to get to as well. Now, some people it might take less time. I personally think it took me a long time. I was not real thrilled about that. You know, the fact that what I felt I had to go through, there was a lot of times where I was just like, this is ridiculous. The thing is, unfortunately, that's common, and when you're going through it, you got to give yourself a break on that. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap this video up. Hopefully this will give you something to think about and give you the ability to give yourself a little bit of a break and stop beating yourself up when you feel like you're having a hard time, because this is something that we all have to go through. So hopefully you're having a good day, and I will talk to you guys on the next video. Take care. Bye.